Hello and welcome. You're watching Times Now. I'm Meenakshi Upreti. Our focus on the Odisha train tragedy continues. It's a dark day for our country. At least 288 people have been killed and around 803 people have been injured in the horrific three-train collision which took place in Odisha's Balasore. Now, this is the number which is coming from the side of the officials. This is the country's deadliest rail accident which has been seen in over 20 years. Prime Minister Narendra Modi today visited the train accident site and met with the injured people at the hospital in Cuttack. Listen in to what Prime Minister had to say first of all.
असह्य वेदना मैं अनुभव कर रहा हूं और अनेक राज्यों के नागरिक इस यात्रा में कुछ न कुछ उन्होंने गंवाया है। जिन लोगों ने अपना खोया है, ये बहुत बड़ा दर्दनाक और वेदना से भी परे मन को विचलित करने वाला, जिन परिवारजनों को इंजरी हुई है उनके लिए भी सरकार उनके उत्तम स्वास्थ्य के लिए कोई कोर कसर नहीं छोड़ेगी। जो परिजन हमने खोए हैं वो तो वापस नहीं ले पाएंगे, लेकिन सरकार उनके दुख में, उनके परिजनों के दुख में उनके साथ है। सरकार के लिए ये घटना अत्यंत गंभीर है। हर प्रकार की जांच के निर्देश दिए गए हैं और जो भी दोषी पाया जाएगा उसको सख्त से सख्त सजा हो, उसे बख्शा नहीं जाएगा। मैं उड़ीसा सरकार का भी, यहां के प्रशासन के सभी अधिकारियों का, जिन्होंने जिस तरह से इस परिस्थिति में अपने पास जो भी संसाधन थे लोगों की मदद करने का प्रयास किया, मैं यहां के नागरिकों का भी हृदय से अभिनंदन करता हूं, क्योंकि उन्होंने इस संकट की घड़ी में, चाहे ब्लड डोनेशन का काम हो, चाहे रेस्क्यू ऑपरेशन में मदद की बात हो, जो भी उनसे बन पड़ता था करने का प्रयास किया है। खास करके इस क्षेत्र के युवकों ने रात भर मेहनत की है। मैं इस क्षेत्र के नागरिकों का भी आदरपूर्वक नमन करता हूं कि उनके सहयोग के कारण ऑपरेशन को तेज गति से आगे बढ़ा पाए। रेलवे ने अपनी पूरी शक्ति, पूरी व्यवस्थाएं रेस्क्यू ऑपरेशन में आगे रिलीफ के लिए और जल्द से जल्द ट्रैक रिस्टोर हो, यातायात का काम तेज गति से फिर से आए, इन तीनों दृष्टि से सुविचारित रूप से प्रयास आगे बढ़ाया है। लेकिन एक दुख की घड़ी में मैं आज स्थान पर जाकर के सारी चीजों को देख करके आया हूं। अस्पताल में भी जो घायल नागरिक थे उनसे मैंने बात की है। मेरे पास शब्द नहीं है इस वेदना को प्रकट करने के लिए, लेकिन परमात्मा हम सबको शक्ति दे कि हम जल्द से जल्द इस दुख की घड़ी से निकले। मुझे पूरा विश्वास है कि हम इन घटनाओं से भी बहुत कुछ सीखेंगे और अपनी व्यवस्थाओं को भी और जितना नागरिकों की रक्षा को प्राथमिकता देते हुए आगे बढ़ाएंगे। दुख की घड़ी है, हम सब प्रार्थना करें इन परिजनों के लिए।
And it was a Black Friday of sorts for the entire nation. The decade's worst tragedy struck Odisha yesterday, a triple train crash killing over 280 people. Listen in listen really to the first-hand account of eyewitnesses to understand the extent of the tragedy.
Odisha and rest of India is mourning. The nation has lost over 250 people in the worst tragedy in 28 years. A triple train collision rocked Odisha last evening. The tragic incident took the entire nation by shock, and it happened between 6:50 p.m. and 7:10 p.m. on Friday evening. Let's tell you how it all transpired. First things first, the tragedy involved 3 trains: Bengaluru-Howrah Superfast Express, the Shalimar-Chennai Central Coromandel Express, and a goods train. According to officials, the Coromandel Express derailed and rammed into a goods train. The impact was so hard that carriages were lifted high into the air, twisting and then smashing off the tracks. Another carriage had been tossed entirely onto its roof, crushing the passenger section. And within minutes, the Bengaluru-Howrah Superfast Express also crashed into the mangled bogies. The nearby people rushed to the rescue and pulled out as many people as they could.
मैं सोया था उस टाइम, फिर ऑटोमेटिक मेरा नींद जाग गया, फिर देखा ज़्यादा जोर से आवाज़ हुआ, फिर ट्रेन ऐसा जा रहा था, तो एक वो जो फैन है ना ऊपर का, वो फैन पकड़ के मैं बैठा था, मेरा सीट ऊपर था। फिर बाद में ट्रेन रुका, उसका बाद हम लोग फिर नीचे आया। उसी टाइम तो कितना आदमी इधर उधर भागता है, इसको बचाओ, वो मेरे को बचाओ, मेरे को थोड़ा मदद करो, ये तो सभी लोग बोलते रहे।
What's to be noted here is the fact that the 3-way accident happened on 3 separate tracks at Bahanaga Bazaar station in Balasore district. 17 coaches of the 2 trains were derailed and severely damaged. Within no time, rescue and relief efforts were rolled out on a war footing. More than 200 ambulances and over 100 medical teams with paramedical staff along with medicines mobilized at the accident site for medical treatment. Union Railway Minister Ashwini Vaishnaw visited the spot and announced ex gratia of 10 lakh rupees for the deceased, 2 lakhs for the seriously injured victims and 50,000 for those who suffered minor injuries. The Prime Minister also announced ex gratia of 2 lakh rupees for the kin of deceased. Taking stock of the situation, Rail Mantri Ashwini Vaishnaw ordered a high-level probe into the matter.
कंपनसेशन का अमाउंट कल रात में रेलवे की तरफ से डिक्लेयर हो गया था। एक हाई लेवल कमेटी भी ऑलरेडी डिक्लेयर हो गई है, जो कि इस पूरे एक्सीडेंट में इंक्वायरी करेगी। कमिश्नर रेल सेफ्टी को भी बुलाया गया है, वो भी इंक्वायरी करेंगे।
The worst train tragedy which the country has seen in decades. The Prime Minister has expressed his condolences. A high-level inquiry has been ordered. But what are the possible causes for such a catastrophic tragedy? What could have possibly been done to avert it? Was it even possible to avert it? What we can do in the future to avoid such untoward incidents and more? We'll open it up for a discussion. And I'd like to welcome all the guests. But first, I'd like to welcome Anshuman Purohi. He's a survivor. He was on board that ill-fated train when this accident took place. Dr. Anil Gupta, Policy Planning HOD, NDIM Home Ministry also with us. Ramakrishna TS, Railway expert with us. We also have Vedpal, former railway official with us. Akhil Agrawal, ex-Director General of the Railway Board also with us. I welcome all of you gentlemen. I'm going to start first of all with Anshuman. Anshuman, you were on board that ill-fated train. Take us through really what exactly had happened. What were you doing at the time of the tragic accident, and also how did you realize that such a massive tragedy had hit you all?
Thank you. I was on the first class bogie of the Coromandel Express, and the bogie was placed second last to the entire train. About 6:45 or 7 p.m., I was trying to get a few winks of sleep on the upper berth, and suddenly I hear a large sound. And the train starts screeching, sliding, and shaking very heavily. I realized then that the train has derailed, but I had no idea of the extent of derailment that happened. What I smelled was smoke, and I advised all the my co-passengers in the coupe to leave all their belongings and rush out of the coach. And that's when I opened the door, that is where I saw a collective wail of humanity crying out for pain, crying out for water. I saw blood, I saw bodies, I saw people with broken arms. Our first reaction then was to stop thinking about ourselves,
right,
and help the people in need. So we started. We couldn't do much. There were only a few of us at that point of time. So we started collecting water bottles from all the passengers, and then distributing it amongst the victims, amongst the injured. And finally, when we ran out of water, we started filling up from the washrooms and helping people. It was, I say, not a sight to be seen ever again, hopefully, by anyone.
Well, absolutely, and that's what everyone hopes and prays for, Anshuman. But, I can understand how disturbing it must have been for you all. You also spoke about the rescue operations. How long did it take for the help to arrive? How did the rescue operations took place? And also, if you could elaborate on how the locals really pitched in, because that's something you were talking about, how you all, came together, the survivors and the locals who started, the immediate rescue and relief operations without waiting for any official to step in.
Yeah. So what we actually saw were the derailed coaches of the Yashwantpur Express, and we hadn't realized the extent of damage that had happened to the Coromandel Express on the front. So our worldview was limited to the 3 coaches, and we went in to help lift the bodies and help the injured. It took about 45 minutes for me to hear the first siren, but by then, and hats off to the locals, many of them had come in. A lot of them had already gotten on top of the coaches that had turned over and gone in to try to lift the bodies and pass it over to people like me who were standing down to carry them to the tracks. While when the ambulance came, I was a bit surprised as to why I wasn't seeing any rescue workers coming to the 3 coaches. That's where people were getting frustrated, and a couple of them even actually pelted stones on the Coromandel Express. Okay. So I took a walk to the front. I could not see, the few coaches in front of me, they had derailed, but they had not flipped over, and there didn't seem to be any damage, but I couldn't see what had happened to the initial few coaches behind the engine. The extent of damage there was horrifying. There were bodies all over the place.
Exactly.
Right? I saw a head without a body. I saw a body without a head. I saw bodies crushed under the coaches. A massive amount of damage, right? And at that point of time, I was pretty sure that the count will be 300 to 350.
Yes, and unfortunately, the count is only increasing, Anshuman, and I can imagine the type of, bloodbath which you are describing. One can imagine, only imagine what you all went through. Stay with us. Let's open it up for a discussion. As I said earlier, Dr. Anil Gupta, if I could come to you first, sir, what do you think possibly, can be the reason for such a terrible tragedy? Again, there are multiple versions emanating. If you go by the preliminary report, it looks like that the train had moved from the main track to the loop track. How does that happen to begin with? What's the protocol which needs to be followed? Also, many were saying that some bogies got derailed. How is it possible to begin with? Because it's baffling literally to me that such a high-speed train, when we're speaking of modernity and, technology in our Indian railways, how is it possible that, certain bogies of the train just get detached and derail on their own?
A very important point, and in fact, this is a very rare kind of incident that has happened. As past more than 25 years, there have been any such. in the area of railway safety, we improved a lot. But this incident has shown that we need to relook very, very sincerely. And there are two aspects which I will look at.
Yes.
The India's railway network is one of the biggest network in the world.
Yes.
And now we are on high pace towards the high speed trains. So are we really prepared technologically?
Yes.
So one thing, but yes, technological advances are there, but technological advances alone would not serve the purpose. It also requires the excellence in operability. So in risk assessment also we say that operability is sometimes even more important than technological aspects. So here we will have to look at, and in fact the investigations have already started.
Yeah.
Coming to a clear conclusion about
no, I understand, sir, and I'm not asking you to indulge in conjecture at the moment. We're also a responsible network, but one needs to ascertain and look at really what had happened to ensure that these things don't happen in the future. But there's a very pertinent point which you have raised, sir, and I want to take this forward. Ramakrishnan TS, sir, as a railway expert today, very rightly so, we are speaking about modernity, talking about high-speed trains, talking about getting Japanese technology in our country, but are we prepared? 280 people dying, is that acceptable at all, sir?
Railway modernity and improving railway safety are to be done in all dimensions. It cannot be done on just one dimension. So, for example, maintenance of the tracks is one of the key things that needs to be done on daily basis. For example, every section has to be given at least 2.5 hours, 3 hours of time every day for maintenance of the tracks. And unfortunately, in the railway, major lines like the Kolkata Chennai lines are extremely overloaded. It must be around 150-160% of its actual capacity must be carried. So that is the first point. The maintenance of the tracks is very, very important, so that the derailment to begin with does not happen. Because if the derailment happens, anything could happen as a consequence. Because it's the events all have happened in a matter of few minutes. So it is very difficult for anybody to avoid such incidents if things are happening so on a quick succession.
Pertinent point, sir. Pertinent point.
The improvement has to be done on.
Okay, pertinent point, sir.
The second point is that signal and telecommunication.
Okay, I mean, I got your first point. I couldn't understand. I couldn't get your second point, but I think it's a very important point which you have raised when it comes to maintenance of the track. In fact, Vedpal sir, former railway official, also with us, sir, before this discussion started, since you're in the studio, we'd spoken about Kavach. Many people are talking about this technology, saying that as far as Kavach is concerned, we're not too sure whether it was available on this track or not. But end of the day, the question is that could this tragedy, sir, have been averted if Kavach was available? Because many are saying, technology and modernity, it's great. We must, have all sort of tech. We should have all of these, apps, etc. But end of the day, it comes down to the basic. It comes down to the maintenance of the tracks, etc. Vedpal, sir.
Actually, you have asked about Kavach. A lot of people are talking about Kavach, that had it been installed, it would have saved it.
Yes.
First thing is, it is in the initial implementation stage itself. It has not covered the entire network, and covering entire system, which is one of the biggest systems in the world, it will take time and money, and that will happen gradually. Second part is that in this particular sort of situation, whether it could have helped even if it was installed. The Kavach is primarily when two trains are coming on the same track in the opposite direction, or one behind the other.
Yes.
And if they come too close to each other, then automatically brakes will be applied and they will come to a stop.
Yes.
Or on the same track, if some sort of infringement comes, some derailed trains come or something, so it will stop.
Okay.
But here in this particular case,
on
the station, on the loop line, there was a goods train standing.
Okay.
And this train was going straight.
All right. So you're saying, looking at the alignment, I take your point, sir, looking at the alignment.
Looking at the alignment.
Okay. It
this
looks like
would not
Kavach
have
could not have
detected
saved.
that, and when it had entered the loop line,
Okay.
after that there was to a small distance that it would not have stopped.
Okay, I
So
take your
in
point.
this
So
case-
to summarize and simplify for our viewers, you're saying even if Kavach was available, this tragedy could not have been averted. But again, you know, what needs to be done in the future? Akhil Agrawal, sir, if you could come in here, sir, as the ex-Director General of the Railway Board, again, you know, we don't have an extended time to analyze this any further, but, you know, even as we close, what do you think needs to be done in the future? Because we need to think futuristically as well. What do we need to do, sir, to avoid such untoward incidents, sir?
Kavach is one of the very important things which we must implement on the entire Indian Railway. And the government has already decided to implement it on the Indian Railway. Kavach is one of the features which we call automatic train protection in the general terms. The Kavach, the automatic train protection, if you look at all the countries in the world, they have automatic train protection beyond 100 kilometers per hour. We are fortunate that we could develop this indigenously, and that is why it took some time before we have started implementing. But now we have already started implementing it on Delhi, Bombay and Delhi Howrah route, which are the two most important routes on the Indian Railways, and where the number of trains are much higher and the speed is also much higher. So, like my colleague has said, it may take some time, but Kavach is one thing which will, when it is covered for the entire Indian Railways, it will help a lot in such type of accident. Any system will not be able to cover 100% accident, but Kavach will be able to avoid or such type of a major disaster.
So maybe in the future we need, you know, other tracks and more tracks to be covered with Kavach as well. Perhaps at the moment, whether it could have saved this tragedy from happening or not, again, that is a matter of investigation. Investigation is underway, but it's a black day really for the nation. This is the decade's worst tragedy which we have seen. The train crash killing over 280 people will be our continued focus through the rest of the day as well. As of now, we'll slip into a short commercial break. On the other side, we will keep an eye on the Odisha train tragedy. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. Over 280 dead, 800 plus injured. That's the number as it stands now. Far as the Odisha train tragedy is concerned, the rescue and relief operation have almost concluded. As far as the death toll is concerned, it's possibly and likely to increase. But how did the rescue and relief operations take place through the day? What happened to those who had been injured? They were all shifted to the hospital. Let's take a look at a recap of the rescue and relief operations.
The triple train tragedy in Odisha's Balasore has claimed over 260 innocent lives and left over 900 people injured. Even before the rescue teams reached the spot, the locals rushed to the spot to help those in distress and trapped in the debris. The efforts by the locals went overnight and they successfully saved many lives.
नहीं, मैं रेस्क्यू करने के लिए आया था। मैं गया था, स्पॉट में गया था। कम से कम 20-15 आदमी को मैं रेस्क्यू किया है। और मेरा मिसेज जो है वो एनएसएस से बच्चे को लेके आए हैं। वो फ्रूट्स वगैरह दिए हैं पेशेंट को, और अभी दोपहर का लंच जो होगा, लंच भी देंगे पेशेंट को। और पेशेंट का हालचाल
आप थे कि जब आवाज आया आपको
10 मिनट के बाद आया, 10 मिनट के बाद आया। आके पहले इसका नीचे से आदमी, हम 3 आदमी निकालने बाद जो दूसरा बगी है उसका नीचे से एक तो आदमी पटरी का नीचे है, उसके ऊपर ट्रेन है। हम सोचा तो ये दबा हुआ है। हम बोल रहे नहीं ये दबा हुआ है, उड़िया में बोला। तब वो हिंदी से रिप्लाई दिया, नहीं हम फंसा, हमारा पर कुछ फंसा नहीं, आप निकालिए। हम निकाला, जब देखा उसका पाँव पूरा टूटा हुआ था। हाथ जहाँ पे दबाया यह सब पूरा कटा हुआ था। हाथ लगाने से भी हमको पूरा डर लगा, तब भी ला के पटरी तक लाया। उसके बाद धैर्य नहीं मिला हमको, हम वहीं से निकाल आया।
Even Chief Minister Naveen Patnaik lauded the efforts of local residents in carrying out rescue operations at the triple train accident spot.
Extremely tragic train accident. I have to thank the local people, the local teams and others who have worked overnight to save people from the wreckage. Railway safety should always be given the first preference. The people have been taken to hospitals here in Balasore, also in Cuttack, so that they recover as fast as possible.
Various rescue teams involving NDRF, SDRF and other forces were also roped in to retrieve people trapped in the derailed coaches. Huge cranes and bulldozers were brought in to raise the mangled coaches that turned to be a huge heap of steel boxes. Rescue workers wielded gas torches and electric cutters to pull out the dead bodies and hunt for the survivors. About 200 ambulances, 50 buses and 45 mobile health units were working at the accident site, besides 1,200 personnel.
हमारी कल रात से हमारी 6 टीम लगी हुई है यहाँ पर और हमारे डॉग्स भी लगे हुए हैं और हमारी मेडिकल टीम भी लगी हुई है और लगातार हम काम कर रहे हैं। जितना बन सके हम लोग सभी मिलके काम कर रहे हैं। जितने थे लाइव विक्टिम लगभग हम लोग निकाल लिए हैं और अभी जो भी डेड बॉडीज है उनको हम लोग निकाल रहे हैं। टाइम तो अभी आस्ते आस्ते निकाल रहे हैं, जल्दी तो हो नहीं सकता है देखते हुए कि मैंगल्ड बॉडीज है, तो इसीलिए अपने आप का सेफ्टी को देखते हुए हमको काम करना है, हो जाएगा जल्दी।
स्थिति तो आप सिविल एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन से पूछिए, हमारे जो बंदे आए हुए थे यहाँ पे सब लगे हुए हैं कल रात से और दोनों एक साथ मिलकर ही काम कर रहे हैं। एंड द डिटेल्स अबाउट कितने क्या कैजुअलिटी हुआ आप उनसे थोड़ा लगातार लगे हुए, कल रात से लगे हुए हैं। एंड टीम तो सारे लगे हुए हैं अपने अपने जगह में जहाँ पे हो रखा है। अभी इनका एग्जैक्टली कहाँ पे किस जगह में लगा है वो थोड़ा आगे जाके देखना पड़ेगा आपको। लगातार है, अभी लगे थे और भी कॉलम आ रही है कलकत्ता से।
The rescue operation has been completed. Now the restoration work is underway.
अभी साइट से खबर ये आ रही है कि रेस्क्यू ऑपरेशन पूरा ख़त्म हो गया है और साइट अब रिस्टोरेशन के लिए रेडी है, तो हम लोग रेस्टोरेशन पार्ट स्टार्ट कर रहे हैं।
The injured have been shifted to the hospital from treatment and union ministers paid visit to the hospital to take stock of the situation. Adequate medical facilities have been ensured so that the injured receive proper treatment.
बम्बई से एक रेल आ रहा था और हम लोग इधर से इधर সারদা সাদরা যাচ্ছে শালিমাই থেকে আমরা যাচ্ছিলাম চেন্নাই, ওই দিক থেকে বোম্বাই আসছিল, ট্রেনটা খুব গতি ছিল, দুজনের মুখোমুখি হয়ে গেছে। আমাদের ট্রেনের বগি উল্টে পুরো ভেঙে ट्रेन में ढुकिए दिए।
तो आज घर आने का टाइम कोरोमंडल में 6:40 को ट्रेन पकड़ा बालेश्वर से, ठीक 6:55 का अंदर बयाना स्टेशन में ऐसा कुछ आवाज आया, तो सोचा क्या, फिर जैसे पलटी हो गया वो मालूम चला कि ट्रेन एक्सीडेंट हुआ। फिर जब एक्सीडेंट होने के बाद जब वो बॉगी रुका ना, फिर मैं पहले निकला, फिर मेरे साथ जो 3-4 आदमी थे उनको भी रेस्क्यू किया, फिर ऊपर आके मदद किया कि एक आदमी मेरे को पकड़ के नीचे लेके आया, पानी थोड़ा पिलाया, फिर गाड़ी में बैठ के मेडिकल लेके आया। मतलब 200 के आसपास घायल हो चुका है। एम्बुलेंस भी तुरंत आ गए थे और ये फायर स्टेशन भी वो भी लोग इन्फॉर्म किए थे, उन लोग भी आ गए थे।
It's a very unfortunate incident. We are working since last night. We are trying for our students. Many have gone to the site from SCB Medical College. There is a very huge response on youngsters. We have NGOs, we have students who have lined up to donate blood. Hundreds of people, more than 3,000 units of blood collected since last night. Now from Cuttack Club, we have given food to 1,000 people, 1,000 attendants, and we have donated to the Prime Minister and the Chief Minister's Relief Fund, and now we are trying to donate around 500 units of blood.
Railways Minister Ashwini Vaishnaw has ordered a high-level probe into the accident He visited the train accident site and said that the main focus is now on rescue and relief operations.
उन सभी परिवारों के साथ मेरी प्रार्थना है जिनके परिवार का मेंबर इस ट्रेजेडी में चले गए, और सभी जहां पर भी बेस्ट पॉसिबल हेल्थ केयर फैसिलिटी होगी, चाहे कटक में, भुवनेश्वर में, एम्स में, इधर कलकत्ता में, कहीं पर भी जो बेस्ट पॉसिबल हेल्थ फैसिलिटी होगी वो दी जाएगी। कंपेंसेशन का अमाउंट कल रात में रेलवे की तरफ से डिक्लेयर हो गया था। एक हाई लेवल कमेटी भी ऑलरेडी डिक्लेयर हो गई है जो कि इस पूरे एक्सीडेंट में इंक्वायरी करेगी। कमिश्नर रेल सेफ्टी को भी बुलाया गया है, वो भी इंक्वायरी करेंगे।
ब्यूरो रिपोर्ट, टाइम्स नाउ।
All right, the rescue and relief operations are almost over, but what next? What can be done to avoid such terrible tragedies in the future? And also, to begin with, how could a tragedy like this, a catastrophic incident like this take place? Let's just dive back into our discussion. For the guests are still with us. I'll go to you, sir. Vedpal, sir, former railway official with us. Sir, as far as this incident is concerned, obviously it's heart-wrenching that such a large number of lives have been lost. But one question comes to everyone's mind that, even if one train derailed or it went into the loop track, hit a goods train, there was another high-speed train which was coming parallelly. Was there not enough time, or is there not enough time? How is it that the driver of that train could not be alerted at all? Could anything have been done to halt or stop the other superfast trains, sir?
See, actually, in this particular case, it appears that the other train, which is Yeshwantpur-Howrah Express, that has come almost simultaneously. There was absolutely no time difference, because you can see from the fact that Coromandel Express, most of the coaches have derailed, large number of, but in this Yeshwantpur-Howrah Express, last 3 or 4 coaches are affected. That is the rear portion. That means the front portion, engine, everything has already passed with normal speed. There was nothing. And only rear portion has collided. So that very much indicates that this train was passing simultaneously.
Right.
And after this Coromandel Express has hit and coaches have derailed and they have gone, they have infringed the other Yeshwantpur, the down track.
Yes.
The Yeshwantpur-Howrah Express was already passing, and most part of that has already passed. So it was not possible to alert.
All right. So you're saying there was not enough time, but in the future also, what needs to be done? We'll discuss all of this and more. As of now, we'll slip into a short commercial break. Welcome back. As we are discussing the Odisha train tragedy, this isn't the first time, unfortunately, that our nation and the railways has seen such a catastrophic incident. In fact, in the past 2 decades as well, we've seen similar terrible tragedies take place. Let's take a look at all of those other train incidents which have shaken the nation collectively.
Balasore train mishap is the deadliest tragic accident in India after 28 years. Over 230 innocent lives have been lost in this heart-wrenching derailment and collision of 3 trains, leaving hundreds of families devastated. This accident also reminds of the past horrors when similar grave train tragedies occurred in the country, leaving many dead. On November 20th, 2016, some 146 people lost their lives and more than 200 injured when an express train derailed in the northern state of Uttar Pradesh. The Indore-Patna Express 19321 derailed near Pokhran, Kanpur at around 3:10 a.m. and around 14 carriages were derailed. On May 23, 2012, the Hubli-Bangalore Hampi Express collided with the goods train near Andhra Pradesh. Following the mishap, 4 coaches derailed and one of them caught fire, killing about 25 passengers and charring several others. 43 people were left injured in the accident. At least 148 passengers of the Mumbai-bound express train died on May 28, 2010 after a few coaches got derailed between Khemashuli and Sardhya stations of South Eastern Railway and toppled on the adjacent tracks. A goods train coming from the opposite direction within a few minutes plowed through the coaches. More than 200 passengers were injured. Then back on August 20th, 1995, at least 350 people were killed when 2 trains collided 200 kilometers from Delhi. The Firozabad rail disaster occurred at 2:55 a.m. when a passenger train collided with a train that had stopped after hitting a Nilgai. On August 2, 1999, the Brahmaputra mail collided with the Awadh Assam Express near Gaisal, Assam. The accident resulted in the deaths of approximately 290 people. The country has witnessed several tragic train accidents over these years that have resulted in significant loss of lives. As India continues to move towards modernizing railways, these incidents continue to raise serious concerns about safety measures on the ground. Bureau Report, Times Now.
And as serious concerns and unanswered questions remain over the Odisha train tragedy, Prime Minister Narendra Modi today spoke after the incident. He also visited the accident site and said that those behind this tragedy will not be spared. Listen in.
असह्य वेदना मैं अनुभव कर रहा हूं और अनेक राज्यों के नागरिक इस यात्रा में कुछ न कुछ उन्होंने गंवाया है। जिन लोगों ने अपना जीवन खोया है, ये बहुत बड़ा दर्दनाक और वेदना से भी परे मन को विचलित करने वाला। जिन परिवारजनों को इंजरी हुई है, उनके लिए भी सरकार उनके उत्तम स्वास्थ्य के लिए कोई कोर कसर नहीं छोड़ेगी। जो परिजन हमने खोए हैं वो तो वापस नहीं ले पाएंगे, लेकिन सरकार उनके दुख में, उन परिजनों के दुख में उनके साथ है। सरकार के लिए ये घटना अत्यंत गंभीर है। हर प्रकार की जांच के निर्देश दिए गए हैं और जो भी दोषी पाया जाएगा उसको सख्त से सख्त सजा हो, उसे बख्शा नहीं जाएगा। मैं उड़ीसा सरकार का भी, यहाँ के प्रशासन के सभी अधिकारियों का, जिन्होंने जिस तरह से इस परिस्थिति में अपने पास जो भी संसाधन थे लोगों की मदद करने का प्रयास किया, मैं यहाँ के नागरिकों का भी हृदय से अभिनंदन करता हूँ, क्योंकि उन्होंने इस संकट की घड़ी में चाहे ब्लड डोनेशन का काम हो, चाहे रेस्क्यू ऑपरेशन में मदद की बात हो, जो भी उनसे बन पड़ता था करने का प्रयास किया है। खास करके इस क्षेत्र के युवकों ने रात भर मेहनत की है। मैं इस क्षेत्र के नागरिकों का भी आदरपूर्वक नमन करता हूं कि उनके सहयोग के कारण ऑपरेशन को तेज गति से आगे बढ़ा पाए। रेलवे ने अपनी पूरी शक्ति, पूरी व्यवस्थाएं रेस्क्यू ऑपरेशन में आगे रिलीफ के लिए और जल्द से जल्द ट्रैक रिस्टोर हो, यातायात का काम तेज गति से फिर से आए, इन तीनों दृष्टि से सुविचारित रूप से प्रयास आगे बढ़ाया है। लेकिन एक दुख की घड़ी में मैं आज स्थान पर जाकर के सारी चीजों को देख करके आया हूं। अस्पताल में भी जो घायल नागरिक थे उनसे मैंने बात की है। मेरे पास शब्द नहीं है इस वेदना को प्रकट करने के लिए, लेकिन परमात्मा हम सबको शक्ति दे कि हम जल्द से जल्द इस दुख की घड़ी से निकले। मुझे पूरा विश्वास है कि हम इन घटनाओं से भी बहुत कुछ सीखेंगे और अपनी व्यवस्थाओं को भी और जितना नागरिकों की रक्षा को प्राथमिकता देते हुए आगे बढ़ाएंगे। दुख की घड़ी है, हम सब प्रार्थना करें इन परिजनों के लिए।